Hello, dear ones. This is Bevin with Perceptive Souls, and welcome to your collective energy reading. I'm so pleased to come to you today on the anniversary of my solar return, often more commonly referred to as my birthday. And it was a strange and beautiful and very interesting day for me. As a world, we face some deep challenges. And yet, as I sensed in this morning to the concept, the energy that wanted to flow through me in this message, what came through was celebration. And it may seem very strange right now to celebrate when there is a great deal of fear and there are many, many things out of our control happening in our world around us. As a matter of fact, it really just kind of feels a little bit like this, right? Like everything is a little bit unraveling. There's some holes. Nothing feels complete. All this stuff either pouring in or pouring out, depending on how you want to interpret this card. And it reminds me a little bit of the Dr. Seuss book that I read when I was a child called The Lorax. And the Lorax was this being, right, where all you could see were these little eyeballs through the slats, right, looking out into the world. And they were, in this particular story, if you haven't read it, they were cutting down all the trees. And the Lorax was the guardian of those trees and was devastated, had gone within, had isolated himself because he couldn't stand to watch the devastation of his environment. And while it feels a lot like this in our world right now, let me weave this story of what's possible for us to celebrate at this time. You know, we come into this place, and I went both to the park and to the grocery store today. And I found myself reflecting on how strange it was to keep this distance between myself and others. How unnatural it felt to look at your fellow human beings and wonder, are they sick, or do they not know they're sick, or could they give me something? And my mom called it, you know, the best thing. She said, yeah, we used to say when we were kids, like, that person has cooties. And now we actually, you know, worry about cooties, right? We worry. And so, you know, we're doing all this hand washing to make sure we don't have any germs and anything. And we're trying to protect this, you know, respiratory system, the breath of life, for ourselves, for others, for the most vulnerable in our world. And it feels really strange. And so in what way would we be celebrating anything right now? I mean, this morning I got on to Facebook and I ended up seeing this wedding dance. So this has been kind of like the craze over the last few years that couples will be, you know, filming their wedding dance, their reception, and all of a sudden they'll just break out into some kind of medley where they've developed this entire, you know, routine, and the whole crowd goes wild, and it's such a surprise for everyone. And this particular couple was actually two men who were getting married to each other. And I thought to myself how beautiful it is that our world has shifted and changed over these past few years to, at least here in the United States and in other places, to explore the idea that who you love, regardless of our external personas, our external physical being, who you love is who you love, right? And that we can love each other regardless of what that looks like. And I was so just brought into this space of gratitude for them and joy and their sharing, and that they could go on the internet and be public about their love, and they could kiss on camera, and they could dance together and have fun, and their entire family was there and supportive and celebrating. And when I see things like this, that even just a few years ago would have been filled with comments and maybe hate-filled comments even, or it would be dangerous. And in some parts of the world, it still is dangerous to love who you love. You know, we still have a lot of work to do in these areas. We still sometimes hold this distance between our fellow human beings. We still hold judgment, you know, stay back. You have cooties for whatever reason, the color of your skin, your socioeconomic status, your gender that you identify with, your sexual orientation, whatever that is, sometimes we're still in this place. And so again, I ask myself, you know, what is there to celebrate when we still have work to do? And the answer is that we've come a little bit farther, right? So even though I did not get close to the other people in the park or the grocery store, I smiled at them. I said hi. I appreciated them. I saw them as my equal. I extended that vibration out there of love and caring. I extended that vibration out there to a few of those people in my life who I know haven't been feeling well, and they're not sure what that means. We can, in those moments, treat each other as equals, as fellow human beings, not as an other. And we don't have to hide like the Lorax and go, I don't want to look at this. We can look straight at it. You know, even in this card here, there's just not a willingness to see, right? There's not a willingness to see. But that brings us to this other place. And I think so many in our world are coming here right now, which is the witness. Because we are taken out of our normal everyday routine, our work, our school systems, those things, and we're coming at home and we're getting quiet and we're slowing down. And we're looking out into the world and we're saying, well, what's happening out there? What's going on? What are the patterns? What are the belief systems? What are my belief systems? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And the witness inside of us, and we all have a witness, and that witness can be either the judgmental witness, which often comes from our past conditioning, whether that's the witness that's turned against us inside, like the inner critic, or the witness that's witnessing other people and judging who they are and what they're doing and the choices they're making. But we also have the opportunity to enter into a space with a compassionate witness. The witness has said, I am just looking, observing, watching, with the intent to understand, the intent to grow, the intent to learn. And so we can move from this space where we've decided, you know, to keep our eyes closed and our hands up in this barrier between us. And right now that's needed physically, but energetically, we have the greatest opportunity we've ever had to connect as a human species. And not only as a human species, but with our entire ecosystem. And to witness what changes when we begin to be compassionate. When we begin to realize that we all have challenges. And we all have joys, and we all have hopes and dreams, and we all want to love and be loved, and we all want to belong. And really, every human being is in the same place. And damn, if there's something that I want to celebrate on my birthday, it's that right there. And it's been a long journey for me to move into this witnessing place where I can step back from things that trigger me. And it's a practice, it's a daily practice. I could go out on social media every single day and find something that triggers an old belief, an old pain point inside of myself. And what I'm learning is when that comes up, I go, Why does that bother me so much? Where is that reflecting something inside of me that I haven't addressed, that I haven't looked at, that I haven't healed? And now billions of people on our planet are getting to practice being this witness. And some of us are doing that more masterfully, and some are just learning how to do that. And for that, we can have compassion for each person. Because before, we weren't witnessing anything. We were just zipping through our day, just doing our work, just going to school, just buying our stuff, just, whatever was going on, fast-paced world. And now it's like, we come into this quiet zone. Come to this quiet zone. And I love this card. I love this card. One of the things I do is what's called a life reflection reading, and I sit down with clients and I pull a different card for each decade of their life. And one of the cards is birth to age 9, and my particular card for birth to age 9 is heaven and earth. And this card reminds me so deeply of this. It's how we are both a human being, right, in a human vessel here in this physical world. And we are rooted into that space. We're rooted into that space. We're interdependent upon each other. Those root systems not only are present here where we can see in this card, but they extend all through. And you may have heard that, every tree is in a giant network. And with that is fungi and all kinds of organisms. And so this rootedness, we have this physical ecosystem that we are a part of, right? And then as we extend up, and we begin to branch and reach towards the sun and the sky and the universe. And we grow and we expand. And we nurture and we feed ourselves, because a tree and plants, they don't actually gain food. They gain nutrients and water and those things. And then they use the power of the sun to photosynthesize their own energy, their own food. And we have the ability to tap in as a spiritual being into that giant web of consciousness and to be fed, to be nurtured, to take all of these lessons that we're learning in this human experience and to grow our trunk into this very strong foundation here on earth. And when we begin to witness, then we have the opportunity to expand this part. We start as a seed, right? And one of my colleagues was talking about this on a call, a class that we're doing together. And we start as a seed, and then we crack that open, and there's a little sprout that starts to come out. And then as it hits the sun, it grows its first pair of leaves, and it grows, and it grows, and it pushes roots down, and it pushes new growth up. And this is how we are meant to connect as spiritual and human beings. And what this does is creates an enormous flame of desire within us. A desire to know ourselves at a deep level, to know others, to understand, to seek a greater grasp of consciousness. Why are we here? What are we doing? And I mean, again, if there's anything to celebrate, it's like I hold this potential right here in my hand, my own potential, the potential of other people, potential of our entire human species, our galaxy, our universe. How incredible is that? This desire card is just so special because it is a 20, right? It's a 20, which breaks down to a 2, which means that desire is not just born from within us, it is surrounding us, it is connecting in. We are a dual being. And we are fueled by that desire on a spiritual level, and we're fueled by that desire here in this physical reality. You see that he's just down to the bare essentials. and all that's left is this desire to know himself or herself or their self at the deepest level possible, right? Rooting into the earth and then flying up here. You can see the falcon, the expansiveness of the heavens around us. And when we begin to take this journey, right, we heal so many aspects, so many places where we have been, in this wounded place, where we have seen ourselves as other, where we have looked at other people as separate, right? We begin to heal. We begin to come up from the depths and notice this divine light that's shining down. There's an enormous amount of activation right here at the heart chakra. We're beginning to tap in to that divine spark, our inner divinity. I remember as this happened for me. So tonight I watched one of my favorite shows, which is God Friended Me. And it is a story of a young man who is an atheist and his journey to look at and to witness all the ways that people express faith, right? And I remembered back as I was watching this show, my own awakening experience, where becoming that witness, being able to look and step outside of my life, making some key choices, rooting and grounding myself in this physical reality with a beautiful spiritual community, and expanding and growing on that level, and tapping back in to that strong desire to who I really am. This is who we really are. They say we're stardust. So you just see all of this beautiful activation dropping down into the depths of our darkness. And all we have to do is look up and receive it. And so today, as I walked in the forest and I enjoyed the sunshine and the bird song, and I went to the grocery store and I found a pack of toilet paper and I was down to one roll, so you know what I'm talking about. And I communed with my family and my soul family, and so many people reached out to me on social media, and I just felt nurtured in this way. I just felt so nurtured, even during this time, as we face really strong collective challenges, that we need to nurture each other, that we need to celebrate the small things, that I need to be able to open my patio and sit and watch my favorite show and watch the sun go down and see it glinting on the leaves in the forest and just be like, I am so glad today to be alive for one more year on this earth. And I'll tell you, this was a big change for me because there were many years when I felt like an alien on this planet, when I felt like my people dropped me off and then left and forgot about me. And I was like, come back. And it took me a long time to really appreciate this duality, right? My need, and not only my need, but my desire to be rooted here, to be in this energy, to start opening this lotus, right? I actually wanted this human experience. And now that all of this is unfolding, which I believe is the largest collective consciousness shift ever in human history, I'm like, how amazing is it that my soul decided to be here at this time? I mean, maybe you feel the same way. You feel like, wow, I mean, I get to witness this. I get to watch, I get to observe, I get to be empathic, sensitive, sacred mirror for all of the shifts that are going on in our world. And then we start to come into this deeper wisdom, right? Where we begin to tap in to all that is sacred, both on the earthly plane and the spiritual plane. We begin to understand these codes and these messages. A friend of mine forwarded a beautiful crop circle. And she said, what do you think this means? And it was gorgeous. And it went from all this sort of chaotic, weird symbolism into this beautiful arc with a line just pointing up towards the heavens. And I said, it's moving from chaos into unification. And this is what this is, that there is a divine order. And that our birthright is to walk this path, to become observant of ourselves, to root us and ground us in this duality, to have that strong desire to know who we are, and then to begin to receive that divine light as it comes in, and to understand the nature of who we are in this universe. This is who we're meant to be, and we are wise beyond measure. And that brings us into this hermit energy, which is very appropriate right now as we all go within, particularly those like myself who live alone. And this is understanding that even in the darkness, we each shine our light. We each have something we're holding forth when we've walked this path, and even when we haven't consciously walked this path. We have a guiding light to share with the world. And we might feel a little bit like this actually is a bear cloak, right? So the bear goes in the winter and hibernates. And we might feel like we want to hibernate, or we are hibernating, right? As we sit in our homes and we do this in order to protect the most vulnerable people in our population. And we do this to show how much we care about our fellow human beings. And yet, even amidst all of that, of being solitary, we have a light to shine. This is part of my light. This is what I'm stepping into. This is how I'm learning to take everything that I've ever experienced in this human experience and all of my spiritual study and all of my spiritual knowing and channel this through, so that someone out there who's watching this can actually recognize who they really are. Recognize that, in fact, the world is not just falling apart. It's what it looks like on the surface. And it feels really uncomfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not suggesting that you do a spiritual bypass and you're not willing to look at what's happening or be sad or be angry about it. It's okay to have all those things. But in fact, what's actually happening is we have the greatest opportunity to come into complete and 100% fulfillment. Fulfillment of our purpose, why we came here, collective consciousness, right? You see, this is a unification. Each cup touching the other cup. And that broad spectrum of light just shining out in all directions across the earth and up into the universe. Completely fulfilled. This is why we're here. This is the 10 of Cups. Complete emotional, spiritual, physical, financial, metaphysical completion, satiation, happiness, fulfillment. And so on this day of my solar return, I invite us to remember who we are. And last night I felt really strongly called to reread this book, The Starseed Transmissions. And a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, gave me this book a few years ago, and I read it, and it didn't mean as much to me then as it did now, although I have considered myself a starseed. And I wanted to share just a small passage with you that I think brings this day of celebration, this invitation to celebrate even just the smallest things that are going right, where we're seeing people nurturing and uplifting each other, helping each other, doing the right thing, shifting this consciousness within each one of us and in our greater consciousness. You will never again have any need to inflate yourself in imagined importance, because you will realize that you are far more important than you ever dared to dream. You will no longer make the mistake of confusing your identity and form with anything greater than it is. While in form, you will see yourself as a being of light in a universe of all equal beings, all equally essential to the whole. Beyond form, in the other reality, you will experience the totality of yourself in full awareness of who you are. You are the presence of God. God is present on earth because of you. Once you're able to open up completely to the meaning of this truth, it will become the overriding reality of your informed experience. You will begin to play your part in the planetary symphony with ease and clarity. As soon as you begin to look outside yourself as individually defined, out into the world around you, to see how you can make yourself useful, as soon as you begin to serve in the capacity you were created to fulfill, you will begin to share in the peace and happiness of your Creator. You will experience a state of consciousness so superior to any you have ever experienced before that it will make your previous life seem like a dream. Now is the time to make yourself useful to the Lord. Bring your awareness into harmony with God's. Learn to see the world with new eyes. Look at your place in time and culture with the awareness of all that we have been telling you. This will alter the way that you function. Your perception of the greater reality will enable you to see many things that have been there all along, but that you have never noticed before. Things that others around you may still not notice. Do not focus on the world that is polarizing towards selfishness and fear. Do not pay attention to the old that is crumbling around you. What has been shall soon be no more. Let the dead bury their dead and concentrate solely on the building of the new. If you find yourself able to see more good in contemporary culture than ill, continue to work within that culture in whatever capacity you feel suited. Spread the light to all that you meet, just like this. On the other hand, if you find yourself unable to see much value in the quality of life that is being expressed in the world, quietly build the new inside your heart. Your time for action will come, and you will know the moment when it is time to venture forth. So this would be this here, right? And it is okay. It is perfectly okay and in perfect timing wherever you are. If you are ready to serve right now, then begin with the smallest things. And if you're really struggling to find a place of celebration, a positivity, a hope in the midst of everything that's happening, it's time to go within and just be that compassionate witness to yourself and others. Practice rooting yourself down into the ground and starting to expand yourself up into the universe. And eventually, you will begin to sense the divine light that is and always has been shining down on you, dear starseeds, dear light workers, dear empathic souls. I thank you so much for being here with me today on my birthday. And I wish you all of the peace and joy and connection that you can possibly find. And I invite you to find just one little thing to celebrate today. Just find one small piece that touches your heart, one person to connect with, one way to help yourself move into this new energy, this new consciousness. Whatever that is for you, I believe in you. And I thank you for joining me. Namaste.